Shalom. Thank you, Chaim, for being here. For those that are joining us online as well. This should be the shir should be in the schus of the victory of Chayalim and for the protection of our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael. There are a billion angles to start from in this particular shir, this particular discussion, and we're going to do a little bit of Chazar in a few minutes. We're going to do a little bit of Chazar about what we spoke about on Shabbos for those that were not there. But before anything, I think it's important to talk about where we are and when we are. Specifically with regards to what's going on in Eretz Yisrael right now. When we are is 5,785. But specifically where we are in the year is we are in between Shavuos, Matan Torah, and Yud Zayin B'Tammuz, 17th of Tammuz. We are in the 40 days when Moshe Rabbeinu is on top of the mountain. And I think it's important to frame where we are in the year in this vein, because the question that we need to ask ourselves is, what is the avodah of the Jewish people while Moshe Rabbeinu is up on the mountain?
For the second time.
First time. Moshe Rabbeinu is up on the mountain, Shavuos, from the 7th day of the month of Sivan, 40 days until the 17th of Tammuz. Moshe Rabbeinu comes down and he shatters the luchos. Meaning, we are between Matan Torah and Egel HaZahav. That's what we're holding right now. That is the when we are. And then there's the question of where we are. And the answer of where we are is, of course, right now we are in Boca Raton, Florida. That is correct. That is true. But it's also important to realize that where we are not is Eretz Yisrael. And were it to be that anybody here said, I would like to go to Eretz Yisrael now, you cannot. You cannot. Because Eretz Yisrael is currently besieged. There's a siege. Meaning, not a siege of a military that's surrounding it and preventing anybody coming in or coming out of the city. But there is a siege that is going on. And there is an army that is threatening, preventing, ensuring that nobody goes in and nobody goes out. Eretz Yisrael is currently under siege. And that is also where we are holding in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu, and in the days of Chizkiyahu, and in the days of Churban Bayis Rishon and Sheni. Is that before Shiva B'Tammuz, there is a siege. Nobody goes in and nobody goes out. And it's true that the siege now is the whole of Eretz Yisrael. It's not Yerushalayim. Although in many areas, Yerushalayim and Eretz Yisrael share certain halachas and dinim. And Chazal tell us that Bisman, B'Yimos HaMashiach, Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim will expand to the whole of Eretz Yisrael. Maybe this is what it means. I don't know. And again, much of what we're going to say this evening is B'derech Efshar. This is possibilities. I'm not saying that this is Mukhrah, because even the Gemara in Masechah Sanhedrin points out that we don't know exactly how things are going to roll out, and the Rambam passes the halacha that there is that the dvarim are stumim b'divrei hanavim, that everything is, even amongst the Nevi'im, these things are not exactly clear. The Nevi'im got some picture of it, but they didn't get the full rollout of how this is going to happen, which is why between Yeshaya and Yechezkel and Zechariah, there's different ways of Gog and Magog taking place. We're not entirely sure about how everything rolls out, but things roll out. So we are in the middle of a siege, somewhere between Matan Torah and Shiva B'Tammuz. And we are trying to, if we were to contain the emotions of where we are holding right now, it is on a very significant level exactly what our ancestors have felt at those times, which is overwhelmingly, there's nothing that we can do. You understand? right now for us, and in fact for the vast majority of the citizens and residents of Medinas Yisrael, there's nothing for them to do. What do? Siren goes off, you go to a mamad, zeh. To a very significant extent, this is not even an avodah that the brave soldiers of Chayalet Tzva Haganah Yisrael are dealing with. There's a couple of expert pilots that are basically taking care of everything, and everybody else is. That's it. That's the whole story. For us in Chutz La'aretz, it's even more distant. But the same thing was true while Moshe Rabbeinu was up at the top of the mountain. And the same is true when the Assyrians surrounded Yerushalayim. And the same is true when the Babylonians surrounded Yerushalayim. And the same is true when the Romans surrounded Yerushalayim. And during the siege, there is nothing to do. So the shaila is, what do you do? What do you do when there's nothing to do? And what is the Yetzer Hara in a world where there is nothing that you can do? Of course, daven, you learn. That's true, but that's true always. That's not chiddush. By way of introduction, there is a personality that shows up twice in Chumash. Once actively, and once reminiscence. Very ostensibly a very important character that we cannot know nothing about. That is a man by the name of Chur. Who's Chur?
Father of Uri.
Right. Father of Uri, the father of Betzalel. Right. We know that he is from Yehuda, and we know that his grandson is the chief architect of the Mishkan. Well, at least the contractor that.
The GC.
Right.
Butter.
What else do we know about him? What else is Chur? What do we know about Chur? So the pasuk tells us about Chur that when there was a milchama against Amalek, you remember once upon a time?
Yeah.
Says the pasuk, "V'idei Moshe k'veidei Moshe Rabbeinu sitting at the top of the mountain. V'yichu even, they took a stone, v'yasimu tachtav, they put it under him, v'yeshav alav, and he sat on it. V'Aaron v'Chur tamchu biyadav." Aaron and Chur are holding his hands. Mizeh echad, mizeh echad. One side like this and one side like that. Vayhi yadav emunah ad bar hashemesh. And his hands were faithful until the setting of the sun. That's what we know about Chur. We know about Chur later. There's one other reference to him. Later on, Perchav Dalad al-Zakenim Amar Shivu Lanu Bazeh Ad Asher Nashuv Alechem V'Hinei Aaron v'Chur Imachem Mi Bal Dvar Migash Alechem. When Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to Har Sinai, who does he leave in charge? Aaron and Chur. Where's Yeshua in this whole story? Where's Yeshua when Moshe goes up to Har Sinai?
He's at the foot of the mountain.
Somewhere on the mountain, right? Somewhere on the mountain, right? He's not with the people, right? He is waiting for Moshe Rabbeinu. Aaron and Chur are in charge. They are the Chevra that are in charge. The question then is, what happens to Chur?
Oh, he died.
Oh, how does he die?
He's killed.
Why? When?
When they said, they went to Aaron and Chur and they said, let's do the Egel Azav. Chur said, no, this is idol worship. And then he was killed, whereas Aaron, and that was to some degree Aaron's failure, is instead of saying no and dying, he tried to delay it. He
tries to delay, right? Tries to delay.
He tries to delay. Aaron, whereas Chur said, no, this is Avodah Zarah.
Right, so what is Aaron trying to delay? Because he says that they shouldn't kill a, what?
Is that Medrash?
It's called Barashi. Right?
It's all Effie.
Right? That Aaron says that I don't want them to kill both me and Chur.
Aaron did it.
He did do it. Meaning, why did he do it? Rashi says, because he saw that they had already killed Chur,
Yeah.
and he didn't want Bnei Yisrael to be chayiv for killing both him and Chur on the same day, right? Didn't know that.
And he knew Moshe was coming back. He just had to
Correct.
delay, like, you know.
So this is interesting. Why did they kill Chur?
What do you mean? You tried to stop them.
Try to stop him. So why did they kill him?
That was the only way to stop him. He was adamant. You're over my dead body.
Right. Okay. So they
Well,
kill him. They kill him. And they kill him because they want to build the Egel HaZahav. Why do they want to build an Egel HaZahav?
Connect to Hashem.
So,
And why?
to a certain extent, yes.
Yeah. Why Eagle?
But it's important to know what exactly was the Yetzer Hara driving them to do so. So Rashi already quotes from Chazal, it's in a few places, that the Malach HaMavis, the Satan, showed them a picture of Moshe Rabbeinu dead. Right? That there was this image that they had that Moshe was dead. And that's why they say, Kizemo Moshe Aish. This Moshe, we don't know what happened to him. So because Moshe Rabbeinu has disappeared, and they imagine, there's a Yetzer Hara that he's dead. He's dead, so because of that, they are pushed towards creating this Egel HaZahav. They need something, Asher Yelech Lefanenu, that will go before us. That's how they say. And Chur is the one that says, no, you can't do it. No, you cannot do it. And then Aaron says, okay, let's try to lay Chag LaHashem Machar, there'll be a Yontif tomorrow. That Yontif is supposed to be Shivas HaB'Tammuz, right? It's supposed to be a Yontif of Shivas HaB'Tammuz. The Imri Noam of Jikov points out that Shivas HaB'Tammuz is supposed to be a Yontif. What's the Yontif of Shivas HaB'Tammuz? It's the day that the walls of Yerushalayim came down. How's that a Yontif? That they breached the walls of Yerushalayim.
Sad Yom Tov, but we have Tisha B'Av for Sad Yom Tov.
Okay.
Like we have.
No, but it was supposed. Meaning, Aaron says Chag LaHashem Machar. It's supposed to be a Yom Tov. So the Imri Noam of Jikov points out that the fact that the walls of Yerushalayim broke on Shivas HaB'Tammuz means that they were always supposed to break on Shivas HaB'Tammuz. The question is, why? Either it is because the enemy has invaded and it's conquered the city, or because we've broken down all the walls. And like Moshe Tzidkenu says, the Baal Shem Tov, She'afutzu ma'anasecha chutza, that you spread beyond. The Klal Yisrael now has the capacity to spread beyond to inspire the world. Either which way, on Shivas HaB'Tammuz, the walls are supposed to come down. It's just a question of how they come down and why they come down. But the time for the walls to come down is Shivas HaB'Tammuz, which means that every year between the 7th of Sivan, between Shavuos and 40 days later, Yitzayim B'Tammuz, where we are holding right now, the avoda is to figure out how the walls come down in the right way. Meaning, and I'll say this very practically, when the siege ends, what happens? What happens? Does the siege end with an invasion? Or does the siege end with She'afutzu ma'anasecha chutza? V'atem tiyu li mamlechas kahanim v'goy kodesh. Which way is this going to go? And this year, there are only two options. Let's just be very honest. It is either Chalila, that Klal Yisrael Medina Yisrael is destroyed, or that our enemies are destroyed, and it's over.
Yeah, there's no middle.
There is no other option.
There's not at this point.
There's no backing down. Nobody's backing down. Which way this goes now is either the walls are going to come down, the siege is going to end, And the whole world is going to say, thank you, State of Israel. Here we go. Thank you, State of Israel, for taking care of us. Well, the walls are going to come down. And Khalil, the opposite happens. And at the point in time that there is a possibility of the walls coming down and the Jewish people expanding and Chag Lashem Machar, and there is going to be this expansion of Klal Yisrael throughout the world. Like the Pasuk says, at the time of Gog and Magog, Vizgadalti Vizkadashti, that Hashem's name is going to be made great and is going to be transcendent. At that point in time, all of these things are going to occur, and it's going to be a massive Kiddush Hashem. That is what we are aiming for. And there is a tremendous Yetzer Hara. And that Yetzer Hara is, Moshe is dead, he's not coming back. And this is the Malach HaMavis, the Satan, trying to push us to something. And the Shem Shmuel explains, I believe, in the name of the Avnei Nezer. I didn't get a chance to look it up. We learned it a few years ago. I think it's in the name of his father, the Avnei Nezer. It might be in the name of the Chidush Harim. And if anybody knows online, please feel free to share it. If I'm not mistaken, it's in the Torah on V'zos HaBracha. Is that Moshe Rabbeinu is up on the mountain, and Klal Yisrael are concerned that he has died. Why is it that is the thing that they are being shown? Because Chazal say that when we accepted the Torah, we said Na'aseh v'nishma, so we had achieved Cherus mimalach hamavas, that we had achieved freedom from the angel of death, that the Jewish people were no longer subject to death. The rest of the world, death still existed, and our job was then to root out all of the tumah from the rest of the world, to be a Mamlechas Kohanim and a Goy Kodesh, to take the whole world back to the point of Adam and Chava before the Chet of the Eitz Hadas Tov Ra. But we had already achieved that ourselves. And says the Shem Yishmael that at the end of every fight, the enemy fights hardest. Meaning, this is true on a level of Gashmias, that when you are fighting a physical enemy, when there is nothing left to lose, it's all out. Right? Yeah. It's all out. There's nothing left to lose. They will do everything. And it's very clear, just to not to talk too much politics and strategy around, because I'm not a mumche. But there's certain political military analyst that pointed out that it's very clear to him that Israel, when they struck last Thursday night, that they had credible evidence that if they didn't do it then, Iran would have a bomb. And he says, I know that because Thursday night was one night after the full moon. And no army in the history of armies has had a covert aerial raid during a full moon. It means that your surface-to-air missiles have line of sight visibility. You don't do a surprise raid during a full moon. You do it when you have the cover of dark. And if they couldn't wait a week to 10 days, it meant that they couldn't wait a week to 10 days. That whatever Iran was planning, whatever they were going to become capable of, Israel understood that this is it.
No repair.
Right. Once they say we have a bomb, it's a different conversation. And you see now that they are emptying their nuclear arsenal. Meaning that Israel is destroying Iran's nuclear arsenal, and Iran is emptying its ballistic arsenal as much as they can figure out how to. And this is terrible. My mishpacha, your mishpacha, and she's all sitting in a mamad, sleeping in a mamad every night. Terrifying. But Pasha says what's going on here is that this is the end of that milchama. This is the end of the milchama. And you realize it's interesting. It's a olam hafuch. It's a fascinating thing. I mentioned on Shabbos there was an Israeli security person that noted that what they did to Hezbollah in 10 days, they did to Iran in 10 minutes. And you see how weird this whole thing is, because against Iran, which is, a massive country, 60 times the size of Israel, 10 times the population of Israel, we destroyed their entire leadership. 10 minutes. Hezbollah, which was a well-armed ballistic missile, it took 10 days. And Hamas, a bunch of, morons in backwater Gaza, we still haven't figured out what to do with them. It's just, the whole world is topsy-turvy. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. Meaning, you realize that everything is happening by hashgacha. That everything that we're doing, everything that we're not doing, everything we're succeeding with, everything that we're failing with, everything is hakol b'hashgacha. But there's a Yetzer Hara that says, and this is the Yetzer Hara of death at the end of time, that says you will never conquer death. You think that you will. You won't. You think that you'll get back to Adam and Rishon before the Chet? You cannot. You think that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to come down with the luchos, with the ksuba between you and Hashem, and that's going to be, and you won't. There's no ways. He's dead. It's over. It'll never happen. There's a Yetzer Hara that says you are not worthy. It will not happen. And within that, there is an individual called Chur. And Chur is the one that says, yes, you can. It's going to work. Chur is the one that says, it's going to be successful. Moshe Rabbeinu is going to come down. You can hold on another day, 2 days, whatever. That's the koach of Chur. Now, the Yaakov Rebbeinu points out that koach of Chur, while Chur dies, that power that Chur has does not die with him.
It also was before him.
Correct.
Who his soul was Avram's brother. Maybe.
There's what to speak about. What happens to Chur? The Yaakov Rebbeinu says that Chur, I'll quote you the lashon of the Yaakov. The Yaakov Rebbeinu points out that Nishmasu shel Chur nislabsha b'nishmas Kalev. This week's parsha. That the neshama of Chur is then enclosed in the neshama of Kalev, who was alive at the time. Zehu Soid, and this is the secret what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu in this week's parsha. Va'avdi Kalev, with regards to Kalev, Ekev Haisa Ruach Acheres Imai. There was a Ruach Acheres Imai. What's a Ruach Acheres mean? Different spirit. Ruach, the letter is Chur. Chur's the letter is Ruach. Ruach Acheres Imai. That's the Yaakov Rebbeinu. So what exactly is the koach of Kalev? And this Eretz HaKodesh writes in Parashat Shlach in 1940 in the war to Hilgeto, quoting the pasuk, "Vayas Kalev es ha'am el Moshe vayomer aloi na'aleh vayarashnu esot ki yachol nuchal la." When the Meraglim come back this week's parsha and they say that there's no ways that we can conquer Eretz Yisrael, there's no ways we'll be successful, Kalev is the one that says, of course we can. What answer does he give them? What explanation does he give them? They came back and they said, there's no ways we're going to be successful. Efes ki az ha'am hayoshev ba'aretz. This is all for naught. It's worthless. Because the people that live there are very powerful. And the cities are exceptionally well fortified. We also saw the sons of giants. What is Kalev's response to all of those claims?
It's Kalev and Yeshua also, right?
Yeshua is later. This is only Kalev. Yeshua doesn't say anything. The Meshech Chochmah deals with why Yeshua can't say anything yet. Just al regel achas, because last Shabbos, Eldad and Medad said that Moshe is going to die. Yeshua is going to take them into Eretz Yisrael. Yeshua cannot say, of course we can conquer Eretz Yisrael, because his Rebbe is going to die then.
Right.
He can't say anything. Yeshua is between a rock and a hard place. Meaning he can't. On the one hand, he can't say, I want to take over, and on the other hand, he can't say that I'm with the spies, which is why Moshe has to give him a unique bracha. Yeshua needs real help here. But the koch of Kalev is to say, Vayas Kalev esa'am el Moshe, that Kalev calms the people towards Moshe. Vayomer, and he says, Aloin aleh, we can rise up. Vayarashna esa, and we will inherit it. Why? Ki achol nuchala, because we can. Meaning, it's the koch to say, with all of the arguments as to why this isn't going to work, we're going to do it. It's not a logical argument. Kalev doesn't have an explanation.
But the logic is the other way.
Correct.
Then it will fail.
Correct.
But it's passion.
It's more than passion. You're right, it's passion, but it's much more than that. Says the Eretz HaKodesh, he says, "Aval kach tzricha liyos emunas ish hayisraeli." This is what a Jew needs to believe. Lo bilvad b'shah sheroya mavoi v'derech liyishua. So not just when he sees that there is a logical way to be redeemed. Gam al pi sichlai v'derech hateva yamin v'Hashem sheyoshua v'yischazek. He says, when there is a way forward, he needs to have emunah in Hashem. He says, "Ragam b'shah she'einu roeh chas v'chalil shum mavoi al pi seichel v'derech hateva liyishua asa." He says, even when there is no way that he can possibly imagine how this is ever going to work out. Yamin b'Hashem she'yoshiu v'yischazek b'emunasai v'yitchunai. He says, but dafka when there is no way that this makes sense, when the Yetzer Hara gives you every reason why it doesn't make sense. There's every reason for this to fail. There is no ways we are going to be matzliach. Kalev is the one that says, "Aloi na'aleh v'yarashna esa."
It's easy to have a emunah when things are going well.
Or when you have a plan.
Yeah.
When you have a plan. What happens when you mamish have no plan? You're sitting and waiting.
That's when people lose their emunah.
Correct. And that's why they killed Chor. And that's why they fought against Kalev. And that's why we sat in the Midbar for 40 years. Because we did not believe Aloi na'aleh v'yarashna esa. It was a chisaron in emunah. And the chisaron in emunah, and I want to be very clear here. The chisaron in emunah, in every dar, is not, and this is the depth of it, is not a lack of belief that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do it. Every Jew knows that Hashem can do it. The chisaron in emunah is not a lack of faith in Hashem. It is a lack of faith that He will do it for us. Everybody knows that Hashem can do everything. You walked out of Mitzrayim, you saw the sea split. The chisaron in emunah is if there's no Moshe Rabbeinu, then there's no ways that we'll be able to succeed. If Moshe is not there, then we will never conquer death. And I want to turn this inwards for a second, because what that means is there's a tipus of Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation. There's an archetype of Moshe, which is Rabban Shel Kol Nevi'im, Bnei Levi, Chevra Mila Hashem Elai, the people that are Moshe Nefesh v'Torah. Today we call the Charedim, the Talmidim of Moshe Rabbeinu. And there is a Yetzer Hara in the heart and mind of every Jew that says, if I'm not living like that, if I'm not living as a Talmid of Moshe Rabbeinu, then I'm not roy to Geula. I'm not somebody that the Geula will happen to. I'm not worthy of redemption. Which means that I need a Moshe Rabbeinu. I need Moshe Rabbeinu to lead me. I need Moshe Rabbeinu to show me the way. And that's true. But there is a very, very deep and dark difference between emunas chachamim, trusting and believing that Moshe Rabbeinu is Moshe Rabbeinu, that the Koach HaTorah is the Koach HaTorah, all of that is true, and feeling that me being a Jew is not enough for Geula. And that's not to say that we don't have a chiv of Talmud Torah and that we shouldn't be sitting like, of course. But afal pichen, even if we are not Talmidei Chachamim, and even if we are not Shomer Torah or mitzvahs, and even if we are not the people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is still going to bring the Geula for us. For our generation. And Chur is the one that's saying, even though you want to make an Egel Hazahav, even though that is your desire, you want to do the wrong thing, you want to be over a desire, you want to throw it all down the tubes. Just hang on for a couple more minutes, because you are worthy of redemption. Moshe Rabbeinu is coming down the mountain. It's going to work out. And the Yetzer Hara that we are unworthy is the Yetzer Hara that kills Chur. And now let's understand the Koach of Chur. And this Rav Kook writes in Einayam Mesechus Brachos, and I want to be very careful here because I want to say this very clearly, that we are not Chalila saying anything wrong about Moshe Rabbeinu. But like we spent a little bit of time in Shabbos explaining that the Nevuah of Eldad and Medad is a higher Nevuah than Moshe Rabbeinu to a certain extent. That what Eldad and Medad are prophesying about Gog and Magog, Moshe Rabbeinu does not have that Nevuah. He sees something to a certain point, and Eldad and Medad see the arc of history that is broader than that at this point in time. And Moshe Rabbeinu acquiesced to the fact that Eldad and Medad are seeing something that he doesn't see, because when Yeshua says to him, Yeshua is the Talmud of Moshe, when Yeshua says, Adoni Moshe Kalaim, Moshe says, if only everybody could be like this, which is the end of the Nevuah of Gog and Magog in Yechezkel. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to give his ruach to everybody. That the whole of Am Hashem is going to be Nevi'im. We are all independently going to be plugged in and connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is ultimately what the Geula was supposed to be in the days of Moshe. And we've learned this a number of times in Chabura, in different cases, in different scenarios. I want to say this very clearly, is that it's very, very obvious, if you take a look, if you medayik and you ma'ayin in the Psukim, that Moshe Rabbeinu was not supposed to be the center stage of Yetzias Mitzrayim. It was supposed to be Shivim Zakenim. That Moshe Rabbeinu was supposed, he had two jobs. He had one job to go and speak to Paro, but another job was to inspire the Zakenim to come with him. And the Zakenim did not come with him. And it's only at the point in time that the Zakenim drop off one by one, like Rashi says at the beginning of Shmos Perek Kei Pasuk Aleph, that they dropped off one by one. They didn't come with him. And therefore they did not go up to the top of Har Sinai. There were not 70 Moshe Rabbeinus, there was only one. There was supposed to be 70 Moshe Rabbeinus. Which is why the Medrash explains that the Nevuah of Gog and Magog, of Eldad and Medad, is once the Shivim Zakenim are reappointed, because there's supposed to be Shivim Zakenim that are the representatives of the Shivim Umas Ha'olam, and the Gematria of Gog and Magog is Shivim, 70. 70 elders for 70 nations with 70 languages. And that the Jewish people are supposed to inspire the whole world. And the Nevuah of Gog and Magog, the Nevuah of Eldad and Medad, seeing that, is the Nevuah of one day that Kol Am Hashem is going to be Nevi'im. But in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu, it could only come from the Nevuah of Moshe. It was Netzal Min HaRuach of Moshe Rabbeinu, was derived from the Nevuah of Moshe. And Eldad and Medad are these mavericks that are outside of the Oel Moed. They're in the Machane, they're amongst the people. that are prophesying about what the people could be. It's the Nevuah of Eldad Meidad, the Koch of Chur that says, Aloyna Aleva Yarashno Esa. We can accomplish, we can conquer, we can succeed. We can win. Us weak people in our generation, with all of our yetzaharas and with all of our warts and pimples and mistakes, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be the Dor of Geula. Like he wanted the people that were of the Zara in Mitzrayim 3 months earlier, those idol worshippers, that they would get the Torah and that they would bring Geula to the world. That was the tchuna of Chur. The Nevuah of Eldad and Meidad is that's still possible. And let's understand what Chur has that Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't. Says the Gemara in Masechus Brachos that you make a bracha if you see one of the places that miracles were done for the Jewish people. One of those places is Va'even Sheyoshev Alav Moshe, the stone that Moshe sat on. If you see that stone, you make a bracha.
How would we know?
That's a great question. Good. What's Pshat? Says the Gemara, Va'even Sheyoshev Alav Moshe, the stone that Moshe Rabbeinu sat on, Dichsiv Yidei Moshe Kvedim Vayichu Even V'yasim Tachtav V'yeshev Alav V'arim V'chur Tamch B'yadav, the stone that Moshe Rabbeinu sat on, and his hands became heavy, and Aaron and Chur, they held up his hands. And Rav Kook is bothered by the question, how and why did Moshe Rabbeinu's hands get tired? This is the same Moshe Rabbeinu that, by the way, is going to be able to stand for 40 days and 40 nights at the top of Har Sinai.
And he was sitting.
Right, and he's sitting there. Right?
It's interesting.
Meaning he wasn't sitting at the beginning, he was standing at the beginning.
Right, now.
Right? With a staff of Hashem in his hand. All of a sudden he's getting tired. It's pshat. Moshe Rabbeinu, who 40 days, 40 nights, doesn't eat, doesn't drink, doesn't sleep.
His hands were a reflection of the emunah of the people that were fighting.
No, the other way around, Rashi says. That when he lifted up his hands, their emunah was lifted up. And they were winning. And when he put his hands down, they were losing. Meaning the emunah of the Jewish people is taller in the hands of Moshe. Meaning, and the Gemara asked the question, what, Moshe's hands make wins and losses? No. If his hands are up, that means the Jewish people can win. And if they're down, then they feel like failures, they lose. How come Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't have the courage to hold up his own hands? Says Rav Kook as follows: Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom ba'atzmai, Moshe Rabbeinu himself, he could not do the war against Amalek himself. He's not the general of the army. Who's the general of the army? Who's the general? Who's fighting? No? Who's the general? Yoshua. Why Yoshua? Because what Shevet is Yoshua from? From Yosef, from Ephraim. That's why he's fighting Amalek. Because, like Rashi points out in Sefer Bereshis, that it's only once Sitna Shel Esav was born, only once the person that will fight against Esav, Amalek, is born, Yosef, that's when Yaakov can say to Lavan, I'm going back home. I'm not afraid to face my brother Esav, because I have Yosef with me. Yoshua is the one that can fight against Amalek, because he comes from Shevet Ephraim, that Koch, which we've spoken about many times. It's the word of Moshe and Yosef. Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom ba'atzmo lo haya efshar lo la'ases milchama Amalek. He could not fight against Amalek. Amalek shu sitnam shel Yisrael minegdam. Amalek, which is the antithesis of the Jewish people, the adversary of the Jewish people. La'ayin hatzofia ad sof kol adaris ka'adam hanavim asher b'chol beisi ne'eman hu kasav alav hu roya she'oid yesh tzarech gam ba'amalek. And the reason that Moshe Rabbeinu cannot fight against Amalek is because Moshe Rabbeinu is ne'eman b'chol beisi. He knows what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. And he knows that until the Jewish people have figured themselves out, there is a necessity of Amalek in the world. The antithesis of the Jewish people needs to exist in order to hone us, in order to purify us, in order to push us, in order for us to fight against Amalek. Moshe Rabbeinu has a problem because Moshe Rabbeinu loves the Jewish people like crazy. But Moshe Rabbeinu knows that if Amalek is destroyed before the Jewish people are ready to destroy Amalek, then there'll just be another Amalek. Evil can only be destroyed once the Jewish people have figured out how to destroy evil. Which means that Moshe Rabbeinu is caught between a rock and a hard place. He needs the Jewish people to fight. He needs them to win. But he knows that Hashem wants Amalek to exist. And that's what Hashem tells Moshe. That this war against Amalek is going to keep going for generation to generation. Which means that if you have the eyes of eternity, if you see with the nevuah of Aspeklari HaMe'ira through a perfectly clear window, you know that you can't beat Amalek. Amalek is going to keep going. Which is why Yeshua only managed to vanquish Amalek but not destroy them. V'yachalosh, he weakens. He manages to get Amalek to run away, but not to be destroyed. Amalek still exists. Because the Jewish people is not purified yet. There is still a need for the adversary of the Jewish people to exist. The hands of Moshe are heavy. Moshe Rabbeinu, who has no physical weakness, has a ruchnius weakness. Because he cannot see through the eyes of objective truth how a Jewish people that is still full of failures and sinners is able in some way, shape, manner, or form to destroy Amalek now. You can't see it. Moshe Rabbeinu understands that you can't destroy Amalek now. There's no ways that you can. You don't have the courage to do so. So his hands are heavy. And when the Jewish people that his hands are heavy, they know that Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't believe in them. He loves them and he cares about them. And he desperately wants them to succeed. But he doesn't have confidence in them. Because they don't have confidence in them, because they haven't done the work. It hasn't happened yet. From the koach of Moshe Rabbeinu, he should put his hands down. That koach of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is the holy Jews of Bnei Brak and Yerushalayim and Mea Shearim, that look around to us and to the Chilonim and to the Tzionim, the Mizrachnikim, the Datlash community. And I said, what are you worth? There's no ways you can win. Because you're not holding the Madrega of Moshe Rabbeinu. You're not living up to the life of Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu, in that Madrega, is 100% right. He's 100% right. To win through Koach HaTorah, you have to be holding the Koach HaTorah. But Aaron and Chur, they are two separate individuals. That they understand the perspective of the nation, the perspective of the generation, the perspective of that period of time. They say, we will hold up your hands. You, Moshe Rabbeinu, who cannot see how b'koach HaTorah we can win. We will hold up your hands. Al yedei ma sheyishbil atzma, sheloi nohag minag amida. Because you, Moshe Rabbeinu, you take a seat. If you can take a seat, we can hold up your hands. If you will let us, we will hold up your hands. Because there's a koach of Aaron and a koach of Chur, which is a capacity beyond what Moshe Rabbeinu can achieve. He doesn't stand up. He says, I will take a seat, which means I recognize that I cannot do this, that the koach of Torah is not capable of defeating Amalek, because we're not holding by the koach of Torah. At that point in time, we hadn't even gotten the Torah. He says, he sat himself down. Because at this point in time, you needed to squash Amalek, even if you couldn't destroy him completely. Yoshua couldn't destroy Amalek completely. He could only weaken Amalek, because Yoshua is the Talmud of Moshe Rabbeinu. Yoshua manages to weaken Amalek. Says, that stone is an eternal monument to the love of Hashem for the Jewish people, to weaken those that hate us, in accordance with the perspective of that moment in time, if not the big picture that Moshe Rabbeinu can see. Even though eternity doesn't agree to this, we are not worthy of it yet. The big picture of eternity. And to that end, there are two koiches that hold up the Jewish people, and this is the Tzarech HaShah for right now. You want to know what the avodah is right now? I'll tell you. The avodah is the avodah of Aaron and the avodah of Chur. And the avodah of Aaron is Pashut. We didn't kill Aaron. We know the avodah of Aaron. The avodah of Aaron right now is Oyev Shalom, Redav Shalom, Oyev Sabros, Mekaber L'Torah. Is that to look at a bunch of people that are being Oved Avodah Zarah and say, Chag LaHashem Machar, the Yontif will still be tomorrow. To look at people that are not Shemer Torah Mitzvahs, to look at people that have let go of Yiddishkeit completely, and to say they are also Am Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu also loves them. To be able to say that these people that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking at and saying, you are not keeping up to Torah Moshe Rabbeinu. You said Nasa v'Nishma a couple of days ago and you've lost it. You've lost the plot. And to be able to look at them and say, if you love them, if you can find the Ava for them, then you can win. Then we can win in this moment. And this is the Imre Pinchas that we've learned many times before. That small tzaddikim, Pinchas Kartza says, small tzaddikim have the capacity to love small Rishayim. Big tzaddikim can love even big Rishayim. And Mashiach Tzidkenu will be able to love even Rishayim Gemurim. That's the koach of Aaron, that has the ability to say, even if you do not live up to the standards of my brother Moshe, I can still love you because you're a Jew. And that's what we learned on Shabbos, what Rav Kook writes in Shemona Kvatzim, in the 8th Kovetz, that the neshama of Mashiach has the ability to connect to Jews, even those that are not connected to Torah. And that was the prophecy of Eldad and Medad that came from HaKadosh Baruch Hu directly and not from the koach of Moshe Rabbeinu. The movement of Balei Tshuva, of the Talmidim of Eldad and Medad. Which is why Chazal tell us that if you want to be successful in the Milchama of Gog and Magog, it's totally whether or not the Jewish people are oisin tshuva. Not if we have done tshuva. It is if we are currently engaged in the process of tshuva, which means that we are constantly seeing ourselves as Balei Tshuva. If we are the Talmidim, not just of Moshe Rabbeinu, but of Eldad and Medad as well. Means that we are recognizing the value of being misnaba b'machane. That the nevuah is not just in Mea Shearim and in Bnei Brak, but it's happening in Eilat and Tel Aviv as well. V'atem tiyu limamlechas kohanim v'goy kodesh doesn't only mean Talmidei Chachamim. It means every single Jew, wherever we are, no matter what. It means even the Avaryanim, B'nei Avaryanim, that they are also part of Am Hashem. To be able to find love for them. And that means that, Baruch Hashem, in many generations, there have been Gedolim and Hasidim and Talmidei Chachamim that have taught us the value of Avos Yisrael even for the biggest Avaryanim. It's a hard madrega. That midah of Aaron holding up the right hand of Moshe Rabbeinu, that we managed to hold on to. It's a hard midah, but it's an important midah. But the one that we killed, the one that we executed, is the midah of Chur, the midah of Kalev, of Aloyna Aleh ki yuchal nuchal lah, is not just that Hashem loves me, but that the Geula is going to happen through me. That's a much harder madrega. And that the Jewish people in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't handle, and they couldn't handle it in the days with Kalev either. And throughout the generations, to be able to love people even though they mess up, it's a madrega of Aaron. To see that the Geula is going to come even through the people that mess up, that's a very different madrega.
Even the name, call like.
Right, Kuloi Lev. That's how the Shach says, the Susei Kohen.
Even the name.
Right, not the Shach on your dad, the Shach Talmidei Ari. They call it his Kuloi Lev. To be able to know that this is all happening. I have a chush, and I don't have a right for this, but that's the nitzachon that we had once upon a time in the Persian Empire, in the days of Mordechai and Esther. The Jewish people saw that Mordechai came out. What was he wearing, Alan?
Sing it.
Mordechai yatzam lifnei melech. What was he wearing? Tcheles.
Tchelet v'chur.
Tcheles v'chur. Tcheles is the midah of Aaron. Chur.
He's wearing chur.
Right? Meaning he was mislabish himself with the midos of Tcheles and Chur.
What does chur mean?
Chur?
In that context?
What color? Brown.
Maybe.
What?
Brown.
Whatever it is.
What is it?
I'm saying that's...
How's it translated?
Brown.
Take a look at the Rishonim. Not for now.
Tchelet's blue. Chur is
Meaning-
brown.
Whatever Malchus was Chur in the days of Mordechai and Esther. So they saw that he was wearing Tcheles v'chur. Really, there's a remnants to that. I don't have a right. I looked a little bit today. I couldn't find anywhere that says like that. Yes, that's at the beginning of the story. Those are all the things that Achashverosh had at the Suda. But when we talk about the fact that the Jewish people they saw Geula, they saw that he was wearing both Tcheles and Chur. That they understood that even them, that even in that dar of people that had bowed down to the statue of Nebuchadnezzar, that had been nene from the Suda of Achashverosh, that even them, that they were road to Geula. And that is where it happened, right, in Iran. That Geula happened when they saw B'levush HaMelech Tcheles v'chur. The avodah now, my dear friends, is to embody the midah of Aaron, Oyev Shalom, Reidiv Shalom, Oyeves Habrios Mekavel HaTorah, to see the value of each and every Jew, and don't kill Chur. That Yetzer Hara that says, it's not going to work. The Yetzer Hara that says, yeah, after we destroy Iran, there'll be something else. It'll happen. And once we die, the right and the left interests are going to fight, and there's going to be everybody's going to fight about the draft.
Russia.
And what's going to be with Russia and what's going to be with China. Blah, blah, blah. That's called killing Chur. That we are not right to Geula. We love everybody. That's Aaron. Good. Baruch Hashem. We were zochen in the past, and I've said this to Chaver many times, that in the past 100 or so years, there've really been 3 Jews that have campaigned for the midah of Aaron HaKohen. Rav Kook, the Piazatzna, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe. That all understood that the only way that Geula comes is Olam Chesed Yiban, is that because Baruch Hu will rebuild the world because we love each other. And that's how the Sas Emes writes from Malach of Zhezhensk. In the beginning of Pirkei Avos, he writes that the world stands on Torah and Avodah and Gemilas Chasadim, and on that the Sas Emes says that I have a Kabbalah from Malach of Zhezhensk, that at the end, it'll only be on Chesed. That if we love each other, it'll work. And the Kotzker said that that's pshat in what HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises to Avram Avinu, that every time the Jew davens, we're going to say, Elokei Avram is Midas HaChesed, Elokei Yitzchak, Midas HaGvura, Elokei Yaakov, Midas HaEmes, Midas HaTorah. But B'cha Chosmin, that with you we will conclude, means we'll finish the Bracha Magen Avram, but it also means that the Golus is going to conclude with the Midah of Avraham, with Chesed, which is the midah of Aaron HaKohen, Oyev Shalom Roi, Oyev Shalom Oyev as a B'ris HaMakarvan HaTorah. We're going to need Chesed. That's 100% true. With Chesed we will survive. But don't kill Chur. Because if Chur survives this, if that midah of Chur can survive from now until Yudzayin B'Tammuz, then maybe when the siege comes down, we will be zeicher to Shia Futzuma and Asecha Chutza, that all the Mayanos, the Teres HaKabbalah, the Teres HaBaal Shem HaKodesh, the Torah of Primus, the Torah of Rishim Baruchai, all of that will spread forth. That when the walls come down, Yakiru V'yedu Kol Ish V'Seva, that everybody's going to recognize that the Rebbeinu Hashem is the Melech. Hashem Echad U'Shmei Echad. Everybody will see it. Everybody will recognize it. That's the avodah now. Is to believe in the koyach of our generation. That it can happen by us. That this could be the end. That this is the milchama she'en acharei milchama. That this siege is the last siege on Yerushalayim. That this war is the last war. And from here comes Mashiach Tzidkenu. From here, like we've learned before, we are revealing the koyach, like the Maral says, of the 10 tribes that disappeared. That we reveal that within ourselves, the koyach of those 10 shvatim. That they are in Golus within us, and we are revealing them back into the world. That's what's happening now. Which means, even though we are not the Moshe Rabbeinus of the world, and even though assimilation is terrible, and even though, to be able to say that Moshe Rabbeinu can take a seat, that the midah of Moshe Rabbeinu, if we're not ready to win, we're not ready to Geula, we haven't taken the responsibility of it, it's all true. And we should. But even if we don't, even if we have failed, even if we are still failing, we just need to hold on a little bit longer. And that's the tefillah that we say every Shabbos morning. Ki mechakim anachnu lach. We can wait a little longer. Don't give up. Don't give up that our door is right to Geula, that it can happen today. And that is the secret of the Afal Pishis Mameh im Kol Ze Achak Eloi B'chol Yom She'avod, means I'm anticipating the Mashiach will come for me today. In my situation, where I'm holding, where the Jewish people are holding. Like Rabbi Nachman says, I feel about star. Even in the greatest hiddenness of the greatest hiddenness, and we are not living in times of hiddenness. But even if a Jew feels that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is hiding himself from him, even there, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, I'm with you. That Be'ez Hashem Baruch Hu should be Zocher to the Geula Shlema Amitis, not just B'mher B'Ameinu, but right now.
Amen.
Chaim.
All right.